Let's start with the basics. We'll take a look at some of the elements of form you should be looking out for when you do your own push-ups. One of the most important elements of a good push-up is that the body should be aligned. Legs, waist, and shoulders should form a straight line. Often when you see guys doing push-ups, their hips sag or their butt moves up and down during the exercise. This is bad form, and it's entirely due to weak waist muscles, which lack the strength to lock the body into place. Allowing your body to sag places your lower back at risk. It also encourages relaxed abs, and relaxing your abs will make your midsection weaker, not stronger. You should start your push-ups with your torso and legs aligned, and they should stay aligned throughout the set until you complete your final rep. If you work through the step we'll show you, your core muscles will have gradually strengthened as much as they need to, possibly without you realizing it. Body weight work is efficient because it tends to work the entire muscular system as an integrated unit, as nature intended. Push-ups are no exception. When you do push-ups, you get a fantastic core and waist workout automatically and for free. Keeping aligned works not only the core, but the legs and the deep muscles of the trunk. So set yourself in concrete. Another tip that tends to facilitate good spinal and hip positioning during push-ups is to look straight ahead of yourself or slightly up. But this isn't absolutely necessary. Take a look at the lower body posture. You'll notice that his feet and legs are together. This is crucial. You might think, what's the big deal about the legs being together? And indeed, it's pretty easy to keep the legs close when you do two-arm push-ups. But when you do one-arm variations, keeping the legs together is incredibly hard. It stops you from twisting and using partial movements with your arms wide out. With the feet close, you can't twist or you fall over. For this reason, keeping the legs together is a fundamental habit to pick up and stick to early on. It's why all prison push-ups focus on having the legs very close. When you do push-ups, even from day one, keep your legs together. We've looked at the legs. Now let's consider the hands. As to hand placement, some guys like to do their push-ups on their knuckles, like a boxer. This really isn't necessary, but is acceptable if you have a wrist injury and doing push-ups off your palms is painful. Some people also do strange things like push-ups off the back of their wrists. Avoid anything like this. Palms down is the classical way to do push-ups. It's how soldiers and sportsmen have done push-ups for thousands of years, and it's still the best way. Also avoid those push-up handles you can buy. Guys who regularly do bench presses and military presses with bars are inevitably plagued by elbow and forearm injuries. This is due to the pressing action while gripping. Pressing off a flat palm is far more natural and allows forces to be distributed through the forearm in a much healthier way. When you push, try to spread your weight through the entire hand, not just the palm heel, but the fingers and thumb too. This will strengthen the tendons of your hands. Strong hands and fingers are a crucial element of functional strength. You'll see that at the top of the push-up, the arms are straight. We often talk about locking the arms at the top of a push-up, but this is not quite right. You should avoid fully locking your elbows at the top to steer clear of hyperextending the joint or irritating delicate soft tissues in between the joints, such as bursae. Instead of fully locking at the top of a push-up, just keep your elbows a little way off fully extended under weight. This may only be a fraction of an inch, but once you have some experience with push-ups, you'll understand what I mean. Not fully extending the elbows is sometimes called keeping your arms soft. This subtle difference may not even be discernible to the casual observer, but it's a definite skill you should seek to cultivate throughout all your push-up training, no matter what particular step you are working with. Okay, we've examined the top position. Now let's take a look at the bottom position of a push-up. When you get to the bottom of a push-up, no matter what step you're on, never just allow your body weight to crash to the ground. Always support your body weight at the bottom, no matter what kind of depth you're working with. Because the muscles are under tension in this position, it's good to pause at the bottom of push-up movements. If you are using pauses, it's much more productive to pause at the bottom while the muscles are under tension than at the top where your arms are nearly straight and the leverage makes things easy. Of course, this is easier said than done, and if you are working near your limit, you might need that breather at the top. If you need it to keep on going, take it. In some push-up exercises we'll discuss later, you might wish to measure your depth using objects like a baseball or a basketball underneath your torso, like this. If you use a ball, remember it's just a tool to determine the correct depth for full push-ups. That's all. It's not a platform. Don't collapse onto it or bounce off it. You still need to fully control your body weight in the bottom position if you want to build muscle. The Convict Conditioning Manual describes the kiss the baby technique. Only touch the baseball onto your chest with as much pressure as you would use to kiss a newborn baby on the forehead. Just touch it. Any more pressure and you've lost control. Okay, that's some thoughts on the static elements of form, the posture and top and bottom points. Now let's take a look at some motive, moving points. When observers look at push-ups, they tend to look at hand position, depth, or speed. But there's actually more fundamental stuff going on that we miss. So for a change, I want you to check out the elbow position. Okay, let's see some push-ups. You'll notice that as he presses, his elbows are pretty tight. They're quite close to his lats. This is the strongest position for all pressing, whether it's bodyweight push-ups or bench presses. It's the strongest position because it's the most authentic, most natural angle for the path of your arms. Keeping your elbows pretty tight allows your lats to fire isometrically during push-ups, so they can act as stabilizers to the movement. Many people think push-ups only work the chest muscles in the torso, but when performed like this, they also give the lats a hell of a workout. If you brace yourself properly during push-ups, you'll feel your lats powerfully firing. This is the best way to do your push-ups. These days, you increasingly see guys doing push-ups with wide hand spacing, way beyond the line of the shoulders. This is done in a misguided attempt to keep the elbows forced out. The trend to keep your elbows wide during push-ups is really a bodybuilding thing, intended to artificially isolate the pectorals. Using a wide hand position to work the pecs is another mistake. Your pecs are very strong. They're already the strong link in the push-up movement. Your strength in pressing isn't limited by your chest, but by your shoulders and triceps. Trying to artificially shift more emphasis onto your pecs will only increase this differential. It can decondition your overall pressing strength and also irritates your joints. You should never press anything, whether your body weight or a bar, with the hands and elbows deliberately splayed out. It's misguided. Avoid weird angles. You don't need to do push-ups with your hands wide, and whenever you press, allow your arms to move as nature intended. The phrase power breathing means a lot of different things to different people. Let's keep it simple. In bodyweight terms, Power breathing means synchronizing your breathing with your body movement to maximize your strength and stamina output. Generally speaking, this means inhaling as you perform the negative phase of a movement and exhaling as you perform the positive. Breathe in on the way down, breathe out on the way up. Taking in air before you put out effort helps you gather psychological impetus. Exhaling as you put out effort helps you to focus and increases your strength. As far as push-ups and pressing goes, having a chest full of air before you push sets your rib cage and clavicles and acts like a pneumatic cushion, giving you up to 10% more pushing power. Remember this during those last struggling reps of a set of push-ups. Air is your friend. Let's see this work in motion. If you need to take extra breaths, just do it. Some guys hiss, some grunt, some don't. It doesn't really matter. Find out what works for you. Don't get too hung up on strange breathing habits or techniques. If a way of breathing seems wrong, it probably is. Whenever you do push-ups, try to avoid momentum. If momentum is doing the work, it means your muscles are not. Smooth, lower reps will help you eliminate momentum from your exercises. 2 seconds down and 2 up with a pause at the bottom is a great rule of thumb. It strengthens the joints, increases intensity, and really turns up the heat on your muscles. Let's see what this kind of pace actually looks like. I advise everyone to try to keep this kind of smooth, slow pace for at least the first 3 steps of each series. If you've got the stones, try to keep the smooth movements for steps 4 through 6 also. But reality check. The harder your exercises become, the less easy this kind of focused pace is. You'll find a little more aggression, speed, and thrust creeping into your exercises. Nobody ever did a one-arm handstand push-up in super slow motion. So easing up and going a little faster as you progress is not always a bad thing. Just be prudent and apply body wisdom. If you are strong enough to use smooth reps, do so. At some point in your training, you might want to add explosive movements like plyometric clapping push-ups. We'll show you some of these later in the DVD. That's fine for training variety and a nice change of pace, but make sure the bulk of your strength is built using great control. Control is a key principle in all bodyweight arts, whether it's prison calisthenics or traditional gymnastics. Strength is your base, and it should be synonymous with control in your mind. Strength is control. This final commandment is not a matter of technical execution, it relates to your training approach. In combat conditioning, athletes tend to work from bilateral exercises, moving the body with 2 limbs, to asymmetrical exercises where one limb gets more work than the other. When the trainee becomes very strong, they ultimately start training using unilateral exercises where they lift the entire body using only one limb. A lot of athletes tend to favor their strongest side when they use unsymmetrical or unilateral movements. Their instincts tell them to do more work with their stronger arm because that's just easier. If you ask guys to do one-arm push-ups, most of them will immediately try with their right hand because it's strongest. They set their PRs using the right hand. It's an ego thing. Avoid this temptation. If you give in to working your strongest side hardest, you'll increase any strength disparities inherent in your system. Your strongest arm will get much stronger and your weaker side won't be able to keep up. This is a bad thing. Remember that a system, whether a chain, a complex piece of engineering, or the human muscular system, is only as strong as its weakest link. Fortunately, there is an easy technique called symmetrical capping you can use to make sure your strength begins to become balanced. On all uneven or unilateral exercises, always start your workout with your weakest arm. Note the number of reps you do with that arm. Then, when you switch to doing the same exercise with your stronger arm, perform the same amount of reps but no more. Never do any more reps with your strongest arm than you can do with your weakest. Resist the temptation to do more work on your strongest side. If you train this way, eventually your weakest side will begin to catch up and you'll iron out any strength imbalances. Symmetrical capping is a great approach you can use for pretty much any exercise to work through any weak areas in your body.